This also goes for every Trinbagonian who gone to live in a foreign land. Now is the time to come home and do something instead of staying out there and freezing. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us go hand in hand, because this is our land. Come my brother, come my sister, and let us build a nation together.
Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique together. This is our home, and we have a duty to make it better, to enhance it, so that our children and children can benefit. They can feel happy that we did our job, and they would continue from where we left off. I want to welcome you to the Dynamic Hour. Again, we have a unique opportunity to engage meaningfully. We want a better Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, but we must not make our differences, because we have differences. We must not make that cause us to fail to engage meaningfully, to have a conversation and disagree, to agree on something. No. And that is what we are trying to promote. A civil conversation, a dialogue where we can learn in the process. I want to encourage those on Facebook and YouTube, please share the live. Sharing is caring. If you share the live, more people will get the message. More people will discover the program. So please share the live. Do not be selfish. Do not come on, view the program, follow what's taking place for yourself. Because you have friends on Facebook that I don't have, meaning they may not be my friends. But if you share it on your page, then your friends may take the time to listen, to be a part of the audience, and they may learn something. They may come back again because they love the program. And many people you speak to, they will tell you they started listening to the program because somebody shared the program on their page on Facebook, and they started listening to the program and they got hooked. They cannot stop listening to it because they want good for Grenada. They want Grenada to be a better place. I want to start off this morning by saying, while I was brushing my teeth, it dawned on me that the NNP, while in office, was responsible for closing down the TAMCC nursing school, where a lot of our nurses were being trained. Young men, young women were being trained to become a registered nurse. But not only that, it was under the NNP that a lot of the nurses were placed under this agency. I think it was Gren Case, where they were given a contract under this agency. So a lot of these nurses over time were disgruntled, upset with the whole arrangement, and a lot of them left Grenada to greener pastures. They were not paid properly. They were not given all the benefits that the others were getting. It is something that you need to track. Also, the same hospital that you see there in St. George's, the NNP administration was advised by PAHO and WHO, the Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization. Please do not construct a new hospital in that location, because your beds will be corroded, it will get rusty, your equipment will rust, the things that the doctors and nurses have to use, their metal, they will get corroded. They will get rusty. Don't build it there. The NNP administration still went ahead and built the hospital there, more or less in the sea, or very, very close to the sea. And people who know about rusting and corrosion and so on, they would tell you, you have people with houses inland, way inland, not close to the sea, way inland, and the sea blast, the sea salt would reach inland at times and rust their stuff. So 3 things that you need to remember. 1, the NNP administration shut down the Tamsisi School of Nursing that produced thousands of nurses over the many years. 2, nurses were placed under an agency and they were given a contract, and the contract was not favorable. And 3, that same hospital, that general hospital, when the NNP was about to construct that hospital, right there, they were warned, they were advised not to construct the hospital there. And not only because of corrosion and so on, the thing will get rusty, the equipment and so on, but there is no parking, no nothing there, no room to expand. And 4thly, it was the NNP administration who accused the nurses and doctors of thieving chicken and other things from the hospital. And they did not do that in Grenada, They went publicly in the United States or Canada and made those pronouncements, embarrassing the nurses and the doctors here in Grenada. And 5th, the nurses had to protest, demonstrate for the little increase in their salaries And you know what the NNP did? They were giving them uniform allowance, a certain amount of money as allowance. The NNP cut that. They cut that amount. Can't remember vividly by how much, but they cut it. It took the NDC to come back and give the nurses $500 on their salary and the doctors $1,000 on their salary. That's addition. All right? And then the nurses and the doctors, they got their 13% increase when the government signed that agreement with the union. And in there, nurses got as a fringe benefit access to medication in the hospital, access to health care, meaning they could see a doctor, they could see a nurse, they could get free medication and so on. And then the government also agreed to put more money or more percentage on the health insurance aspect for nurses, doctors, public officers, generally. I think they move it to 55%. So the record is there to show that the NDC has always been for workers, for nurses, for doctors, for public officers generally. So I thought I should start off by telling you these things because, sometimes in your quiet moments, you would get certain things, certain ideas, certain visions, certain facts will come back to you. So I thought I should start off by putting that on the table. The NDC cares about the workers of Grenada, Carriacou, and the PT Martinique. I want to say, in moving on, there seemed to be a misunderstanding, and not just simple people misunderstanding this whole issue of pension reform. There are people who should know more. And when you look on Facebook or Instagram, what they post make you wonder. I am talking about people within the union who should know about the Public Service Commission on established workers versus established workers, contract workers, contract for service, those who just end up in the public service with a letter, not from the Public Service Commission, from some minister, and what the Constitution says about pension and who is entitled to pension. It seems as though they're confused. But let me say this. If a person is appointed and confirmed by the Public Service Commission, they would receive a letter telling them what position they're confirmed in and what grade they're at as the Public Service Commission. And automatically, they would be entitled to the 1958 pension. 66.66% of your last highest emolument. So when they reach the age of retirement, they would get a pension until they die. And if they have a widow or somebody who they're married to, they would be entitled to getting benefits. once they die. That's your pension from government. And the government is the only one paying that pension. So taxpayers' money, me and your money, the farmer, the fishers, the business people, ordinary Grenadians, the bus drivers, we are the ones paying that money to that public officer who retires. It's not contributory. They don't have to pay anything in. The law speaks to what they're entitled to get. So at present, almost 4,000 people are receiving that pension. I'm saying all of this to say to you, that is not all of the public service. In the public service, you have established workers, like those who fall under the 1958 pension scheme or plan, where government pays their pension until they die when they retire. Once you retire, until you die, government by law has to pay you a pension, almost 70% of the amount of money you're working for, at least the highest salary. But you have workers who are unestablished, workers who are on contract, workers who are just temporary, or they came in temporary and they end up in the system, they remain there. They're not entitled to any pension. And also, the union do not represent these people in reality. The only time the union was able to get something for these people was under the NDC, because the NNP was not entertaining any conversation about these unestablished workers, these contract workers and so on. They were not entertaining anything whatsoever. The only time these unestablished workers or contract workers and so on were able to get any benefits, anything, was under the NDC, when the 13%, the recent 13% was negotiated for, and the NDC administration decided a worker is a worker when it comes to increases. So we will give them also the increase. They didn't have to get it. No, because under the NNP, they would never ever get it. Sometimes you have to take our time and explain things to people, Just have to take your time. So I'm explaining this thing so you could understand. So the government and everybody who assess this entire 1958 pension plan or scheme, they concluded that it is unsustainable. It would go bankrupt. It would bankrupt the economy. The government one day will not be able to pay these people if we continue like this. So let's come up with a new pension plan only for the unestablished workers. So those who are permanent, and even if they are working, they're permanent, they would be entitled to the 1958 pension, the almost 70% of their last highest salary from government every month once they retire until they die. But those who are unestablished, those who are on contract for service, temporary, on some letter, PSC letter or whatever, they would now fall under a new pension plan. Because as it stands now, When they retire, they're going home without a pension. They have no pension to get because they're in contract for service. They're temporary. They're unestablished. They're not permanent. They're going home without a pension, back into poverty. The NDC, caring, loving, concerned about these workers, decided we need to put a pension in place to help these people, because we cannot put them on the existing pension scheme or plan, because it will bankrupt the economy. So we heard about pension reform. So pension reform came about as a result. And the government is proposing that the employee put some money and the government, your employer, will put some money. And when you retire, you will get a pension until you die, but you will still be entitled to your NIS pension. Your NIS pension is yours. We're not mixing the two. Remember, the NNP was proposing pension reform, but how they were actually proposing it? They wanted to merge the NIS pension with government pension across the board. Across the board, so you would have received one pension and everybody would have fallen under that. Everybody. So the people who got their pension and their gratuity, they would have fallen exactly under that. So we have to understand what is at stake here. So the NDC is saying, let us sit, let us come up with a new pension plan for these people. So they put a committee in place, they consult those who are involved and who will be impacted. They had lengthy consultations. The government set a timeline, October, to go in the parliament to deal with this. All right? To get this thing sorted. Because longer you wait, more and more of the workers on contract or unestablished workers, they are retiring and going home with no pension. If any one of them retire today, tomorrow, they will be going home with no pension. Just think about it. They work for 20 years, 25 years, 23 years. They're going home with no pension. None. Because they're in contract. They're unestablished. You have to understand that. And remember, it was the NNP administration in 1995 who introduced contract labor within the public service. That didn't exist before that, period. No. And if it existed, it was very small. And it was fixed contract. You get 2 years, you do the work, it's done. It was not a situation where you're rolling it over and rolling it over and rolling it over. No. I'm saying it was a different situation. In 1995, the NNP introduced contract labor within the public service because they wanted to have two public service. A public service inside of a public service. So if the unions decided to call a strike, those on contract can't go on strike, can't protest, can't demonstrate, because the contract will not be renewed, because They may lose their work. You have to understand what was taking place before and now, during, and what we're looking at after. Because after all of this, these contract workers, these unestablished workers, will have a new pension that they would be proud of. And when they retire, they would have something to fall back on until they die. All right? Which is a good thing. And if they decide to leave the public service and go into the private sector, that same pension plan could roll over into the private sector because you're contributing a certain amount and the employer is contributing a certain amount, which is great, which is ideal. Do you know that the private sector has a similar pension plan where the employee will contribute a certain amount and where the employer will contribute a certain amount, and when they retire, they get a pension? Besides NIS, there are some businesses you retire and you rely solely on NIS, but there are some with pension plans, with insurance companies and so on, where you're paying a certain amount, your employer paying a certain amount, and when you retire, you get money every month until you die. So I am saying everything doesn't have to be controversial. Everything doesn't have to be politics, politics, politics. No. There are some things that we all could appreciate when a government is trying its best to help you. You must appreciate that. So when Brian Grimes opened his mouth talking about the Public Workers Union has contracted a law firm to write the Department of Public Administration seeking answers for X, Y, and Z, he came across as controversial. He came across as though he wants to fight the system that's actually helping the workers. The NDC is a pro-worker party. The NDC believes in workers and wants good for workers. That's clear. Very, very clear. So I am saying, instead of teaming up and working with the government, you become adversarial. You become, a fighter, as though the government is not helping. The government is trying to help. They didn't have to. They could have decided, well, we're not going that route. You're on contract, stay on your contract. When you retire, you get nothing. Because the NNP put you all on contract. And you were there, working on contract for all these years, and nothing was happening for you all. Nothing. I am saying the NDC believes in workers and wants good for workers. So all we need to do is to sober up ourselves and have a real conversation. Tell me, what has the union done in all the years NNP was in power for these contract workers, for these unestablished workers? You tell me. Because they were collecting dues from these workers. And they don't really represent them at the bargaining table. Only under NDC, they got a little recognition by them getting the 13% increase. But under NNP, that was not even a topic. So why now, all of a sudden, you become vocal, you believe you know it all, and you want to challenge government, and you want to have law firm right government, Seeking what? I mean, folks, these guys, they have hidden agendas. They playing with workers. They playing the game because they believe with their ambition, they will get somewhere. Maybe end up in the politics down the road. Maybe run for a constituency. That kind of thing. They're ambitious. So they want to give the workers the impression that they're fighting for them. But any worker who is reasonable, who is logical, who is conscientious, who is just conscious, right, would sit and say, but wait, all these years, NNP been in power. NNP never did anything for these contract workers. NNP was hiring workers on contract. They were not making workers permanent. No, they were not working on a pension for these contract workers. No, they were never working for the contract unestablished workers. They were never working on any pension for these people. They saw them as contract workers. They saw them as unestablished workers. That's how they saw them. It was never a situation of NNP doing anything for these people. No, at no time. So why NDC now trying to do something to help these people? You want to become a big stone. You want to become a stumbling block. You want to become, a problem. But why you were not so vocal when NNP was in power? And you know what's amazing? NNP never treated Brian Grimes good, No, they treated this guy like dirt. Brian Grimes was treated like dirt by the NNP administration. And look at the Union Donkey today. The NNP ride this guy back. The NNP administration, in my belief. But he is of that belief that he's smart, that he's bright. Any liquor person could tear this guy apart on the issue of pension reform and regularization. This thing is simple, like 1, 2, 3. This government does not have any legal obligation to pay the unestablished worker or workers on contract for service and so on, any pension. That is why they are retiring and going home with no pension. That is the fact. They were hired on contract, and that is what it is. They were not appointed and confirmed by the Public Service Commission. They were not. So they're unestablished. They're on contract. They're temporary. So the NDC is trying to create a new pension plan that is sustainable, so that when they retire, instead of going home with nothing, they're going to go home with a pension every month until they die. Simply put, that's the thing. That's what it is. So the NDC is trying to help these people. But no, the union, Brian Grimes, seem to want to stand in the way. But the guy is foolish, because the NDC is going to the parliament to get the legal backing to have this new pension plan roll out. And the NDC administration, as government, has the authority to have in place a new pension plan to help these people. Because as it stands now, they have nothing. You know, my good friend Fimba Thomas, good brother, was speaking about the Constitution and less favorable from favorable, meaning what the Constitution says, if you have something like the pension plan, you cannot come up with a new one that is less favorable to the employee. But the Constitution was speaking about the employee who is established, appointed by the Public Service Commission and confirmed, not a contract worker, because a contract worker or unestablished worker does not fall under the 1958 pension plan or laws. That worker is not protected. That worker is not protected by the Constitution regarding a pension. That worker has no pension, so there's nothing favorable or unfavorable. Anything you give that worker now will be favorable, will be good for that worker, because the worker has nothing going home to. So you see, some people, they're in the system, but they don't understand it too well. And watch me, sometimes you have to forgive them. All right? I am somewhat legally minded. I'm not a legal luminary, but I'm legally minded. And that would take me to our next conversation. So I make it clear that I'm not a legal luminary, but I'm legally minded. Let's go to the next conversation. Keith Mitchell believes that he is smart. He believes he can fool the electorate or the people, or scare the people in the diaspora. Listen to Keith Mitchell for a moment.
Support of the people in the country. So the job is to try to pad the voters list to see.
You know, before I continue, Keith Mitchell really looked like Gary when the GLP was almost in the center cemetery. All right? He has a look, you know, this old guy who been there, beat up, been there for so long in the system. It's that rubbing off on him. He comes across that way. And nearly everybody who's associated with the NNP at the top, they come across as being geriatric. They come across as being old, beat up. That is how this guy looks, in my view.
They have lost the support of the people in the country. So the job is to try to pad the voters list to see if they can get people from outside. And therefore you have to take this voters list and scrutinize every name. And if you see a name saying Ching Ching Wong, Wang Ti and all kind of things, you have to ask yourself, what they're doing there? I don't know anybody in St. David is Ching Ching Wong and Wang Ti and all, well, Tan Ti and all kind of things, but yeah, did you say that? So every one of these people, we have to deal with that. Because the law is clear. You cannot register to vote or vote in an election in Grenada unless you're a Commonwealth citizen or Grenadian citizen, or both, of course. But you must be here for at least a year. That's the law. So if you're living abroad, you can't just come and register and vote. So friends, get this voters list in every area.
Yes. So folks, Keith Mitchell is a political baboon, in my belief. And don't believe he doesn't know what is right. Let me tell you what the law says. What the law says about a person's right to vote. Subject to this act, and that's the Representation of the People's Act, a person is entitled to vote in an election in a constituency if on polling day he is qualified and registered as an elector in that constituency and his name appears on the current list to be used for that constituency. Let's look at what entitlement to registration says. Subject to Section 7, a person shall be entitled to be registered as an elector in any one constituency if he, A, and they're in Article A. So when they say it's in Article A, speaks to one, is a citizen of Grenada. So once you are a citizen of Grenada, you are entitled to register. No one could stop you from registering. Or B is a Commonwealth citizen who has resided in Grenada for a period of at least 12 months immediately before the date of his registration. So here it is. They didn't say A is a citizen of Grenada who has resided in Grenada for a period of at least 12 months immediately before the date of his registration. No. It says A is a citizen of Grenada. So once you're a citizen of Grenada, you're born and bred here, or you become a citizen, you're a citizen of Grenada, you are entitled to register and vote and participate in our election. B, or, so you have, once you hear or, it means you're moving to another thing, another person. All right? So, citizen of Grenada is one person who can get registered, who is entitled to getting registered. B, or a Commonwealth citizen. That's another person altogether. A Commonwealth citizen. You could be both, you know. You could be a Grenadian and a Commonwealth citizen. But you're a Grenadian first. You're a citizen of Grenada first. That's important. So, or is a Commonwealth citizen who has resided in Grenada for a period of at least 12 months immediately before the date of registration. It continues. C, has attained the age of 18 years. So that person must attain the age of 18 years and is ordinarily resident in that constituency. So that person has to be from that constituency. So you have to be from that constituency, right? So you're a resident of that constituency. You're born there, you grew up there, whatever. You from that constituency. You're 18 years, all right? But it is very, very clear. The distinction is very, very clear. And don't believe Keith doesn't know that. That is why in 1999, that is why in 2003, we had so many Grenadians coming to vote during our elections. Plane loads of people coming back to vote. And who they were voting for? You think he ain't know? The guy knows. But the tide turned. Things are different now. The people in the diaspora, they want to see the most honorable Deacon Mitchell and his team succeed. They want to see government do things to help the people and Grenada transform and that Grenada move forward. So the NNP has lost support in the diaspora and they know that. So he's trying to scare people. But anybody with sense, and I've been explaining that consistently so, because The law is clear. That is why when the law was challenged in a particular election and the person, the supervisor of elections, came out publicly and said, I think it was Philip that was there, the former principal of Wesley College. He came out publicly and stated that the law is clear. As long as you are registered on that voters list, you're a citizen of Grenada, you got registered, or you're a Commonwealth citizen, you got registered, you are entitled to vote on election day. It is very clear. Very, very clear. So here it is. I am saying to you, Keith can't fool you. All you need to do is to go in part 3 of the People's, let me get the name of the act for you, the Representation of the People Act. The Representation of the People Act. Chapter 286A. All right? So it's easy. All you need to do, go in there and check it out. Read it. Appraise yourself. All right? Learn a little thing or two about it. And then it says in section 2, for the purposes of registration under this act and the rules, a person is deemed subject to this act to reside in the polling division in which he was ordinarily resident immediately prior to his registration. That is why when you go to get registered, they ask you, well, bring a bill. All right, bring a bill. It may not be a bill on your name, but a bill to show where you're staying. All right, where you're living. So they can put that on the voters list itself. So that's the polling division you have to vote in. 3, a person is not ordinarily resident in a polling division if he has taken up residence in that polling division. If you just come and just, for the purpose of engaging in any employment of a temporary or seasonal character. In other words, a person who is working in Grandance, for example, in a permanent work, and there for a long, long time, that person could register in Grandance, could register in the South. I'm telling you, the law says it clear. But if you go down there for a work and you're temporary or a seasonal, you just go temporary. You cannot register there. But you could if you are permanently there. For the purposes of registration under this act and rules, a person may be ordinarily resident only in one polling division at any particular time. That's a given. You can, because they don't want you to vote in St. Patrick and then you come down and vote in Grandance because you're working in Grandance and you're living in St. Patrick. You could only vote once. Right? So here what disqualifies a person from registering, from being on the voters list. Section 1 or subsection 1. No person shall be entitled to register as an elector in any constituency who, A, has been sentenced by a court in any part of the Commonwealth to death or to imprisonment for a term exceeding 12 months. So if you go in jail for more than 12 months, you can't vote. All right? Just like in most countries around the world. And has not either suffered the punishment as may have been substituted by a competent authority unless he received a free pardon. So if they pardon the person, it's different. B, is a person adjudged to be of unsound mind by a qualified medical practitioner. C, has been detained as a criminal lunatic under any law enforced in the state. And D, is disqualified for registration as an elector by any law in force in the state relating to offenses connected with elections. 2, for the purposes of section 7, subsection 1A, neither pardon nor any punishment imposed by a court in any part of the Commonwealth, nor involving actual imprisonment, will operate to disqualify a person from entitlement to be registered as an elector. In other words, this thing is clear now. Very, very clear. If a person gets pardoned, no way they can be disqualified. So if that person is pardoned by, let's say, the Governor General, or I think the King, right? I don't think we have pardoning from prime ministers like you have pardoning from presidents. I don't think it's the same thing. But I'm saying this law is very, very clear. Don't make Keith Mitchell and the NNP try to scare you. Let us continue the registration. Let us see more and more people register to vote, all right, to participate in the elections. He's scared. Keith and the NNP, they're scared. But you don't need to be a lawyer to understand what the law says. This thing is clear. It's not ambiguous. It is unambiguous. It is clear like crystal. Anybody could understand the thing. All right? So don't make them fool you. If you're a Commonwealth citizen, you have to be here 12 months before you can register. But once you are a citizen of Grenada, you can register at any time. Once you are a citizen of Grenada, once you can prove you have a Grenadian passport or you have a Grenadian birth certificate. You hear me? A Grenadian, for example, he just came from Panama, a Grenadian, and he got registered because he's a Grenadian. So he stopped by my place yesterday. He said, well, Kem Jones, I got registered. I'm ready for them. He said, how can I put the information in your database? All right. I said, don't worry. Take your time. All right. Deal with that person. You see the point? But they cannot prevent the person from getting registered. And mind you, the person could become a citizen of Grenada, and have a name, Ching Chang Chung, Ching Chang Chi, Cha Cha. And that person has a right to register and to vote. No one could prevent them from doing so because the law protects them. So Keith Mitchell making himself a bloody lunatic on the stage, the guy's a damn clown. NNP has become a comedy party, just comedy show they putting on, The guy's a lunatic. Keith Mitchell is a political lunatic. And all that he gets is worse. He's losing his marbles. The guy is a you see this guy on the stage and you say that and them want to run country, that and them want to come back in power in government. But Keith don't move there. Keith move there, boy. Move there. Old man move there. Wrong with he? There are some elderly people, some old people who would age gracefully. They're proud of their age. Even if they had a little gray hair, they'd have to go and dye it and all this kind of stupidness and play young, wear tight pants and no, you take care of you stay around your grandchildren, you travel, you enjoy your old age. But some of them, you understand? Keith Mitchell moved there now. What's wrong with you? Who do you think you are? You've been there for 40 years. You're not tired. You're not burn out. Look at you. You're making yourself a bloody lunatic. At those meetings, you become a laughing stock for every little child. You're just eroding your everything. You're no shame. And then you have all these geriatrics with you. And you go and enjoy all your retirement now and all your money that you amass over the period of time. Now go and enjoy it. Go on some nude beach in Spain now. Go on some nude beach in Spain and shake your ding 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 if you could shake. Go and enjoy your money. Go and spend your millions. Go on some beach where people ain't know you. With who and who? Why what Keith Mitchell don't move there? Move there, nobody. Move. Grenada have had enough of you. We're tired with you. You've been there 40 years. You're drained, you're burnt out. You're old. Look at you. Go on and enjoy your retirement. It's just sad. Sad how this guy has become. I pity him. I pity Keith Mitchell. Sometimes I say to myself, why somebody don't intervene and help this guy? Just help him. He might have money, but mentally he's not there in my belief. He's off in my belief. I'm not a medical doctor to tell you that he's deranged or crazy or mad or mentally, losing his cognitivity and so on. I am not able to do that. I don't have the power. I don't have the authority to do it. But I pity this guy. Keith Mitchell, I pity you. Popo Black, I pity you. You know, in some of them young age, they were poor, dot poor, right? They used to call them Popo Black. You know, he black and he poor, but he want to play thing. You understand the point? I pity you. It's sad. The littlest child now laughing at you. Giggling, laughing at this guy who been there for all these years. You know, take your money now. Popo Black, take your money and go in Spain on some nude beach. Go there with some body or bodies. Go and shake your ding or dingiling or whatever you call it. If you could shake it. Go and do that. Enjoy your money now. Leave Grenada in peace. You're divisive. You're only interested in dividing this place, in my belief, and stirring up things. You hate to see peace and tranquility. You hate to see Grenada moving forward. You're too nasty and bad-minded. Keith Mitchell, you're too nasty and bad-minded. You're a wicked old man. Go. Leave us. Leave Grenada in peace. Run out now. Go now. Go. You're not wanted here. You're a comedian. Everybody laughing at you. You're a political lunatic. And then you have the others with you who act in the same way. It is sad. Very, very sad. I pity you. I pity Keith Mitchell. I'm sorry for that guy. I pity you. Folks, I want to wish you all the best. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I'll be back with you on Sunday, God's willing, starting from 1 in the PM until 2. Take good care and bye for now. Remember, this program is funded by people just like you. When you give to this program, it keeps it going. It keeps it on air. We pay the bills, we meet the commitments. The number at the bottom of the program, scroll in there, 1473-415-4817. You can WhatsApp me, you can call me if you want to give towards this program. Take good care.